This giant sand spider eats the desert to generate infinite amounts of sand. But this huge industrial compound next to it is completely dead. So today, in order to fix that, I'll be building a whole host of different factories inside each of the buildings, as well as engineering a fleet of fully automated trucks to move all of the items around to and from the different factories, bringing this entire compound to life. Let's create. This is a ridiculous machine that sucks sand up through the desert and throws it all onto this big old pile of sand at the back, which is actually all just one big illusion. Inside of the sand spider, there is a machine that turns gravel, which we're actually getting from far, far away, into sand. It then spits the sand out over there, where it is sucked up by a backpack with the magnet upgrade. It's sent underground into here, where it's then blasted up through fans into the sand spider, making it all look like the sand spider's eating through the desert, and I absolutely love it. But that's not everything we're doing in this area to bring this to life. Of course, we need a transport network of vehicles that bring this sand over to these buildings where it can be processed and then sent to other buildings for more processing, utilizing every single one of the little buildings around our mega factory. But that does, of course, mean that our mega factory is no longer going to be a mega factory, because we're going to be tearing out every single one of the machines that I've already built in here that do all of the things that I want to do to generate all of these blocks that we're already generating. Why would I undo something I've already done? Well, because plans don't always come when you want them. And since I've been building all of these things and creating these crazy contraptions, I've just been getting more and more inspired to work on this area and really bring it to life. But before we start tearing out all of those farms and things, I want to address a comment that I got in the previous video. In fact, I got an awful lot of comments in the previous video, mainly saying that they thought my sand spider was wonderful, that yes, I should add a tough recipe so that I can actually craft tough rather than just having to mine it out from the world. But the one that stuck with me was that the sand from this is just blowing up too quickly, which makes it very difficult to see. And I agree. So I'm going to try and find the little hole that I made to actually get back down underneath this thing, which is going to be quite difficult. Oh, there it is. There's my hole, look. And I'm going to come down here and just have a go at turning down the speed of the fans so that they're not blowing quite so strongly. So let's do it half speed. Use a bit of cheaty free cam to see if that makes a difference. They're still getting up high enough to be picked up by the magnets, and yes, they are going a little bit more slowly. What if we went even slower than that? Let's go half again at 64 speed. And I'm going to imagine that the sand, yeah, it just ends up all over the floor there. That's no good. Okay, what about somewhere in between? Around about, let's say, 100? Yeah, that is just about getting caught by the magnets, but we're still getting a lot of it just sort of floating down and not going anywhere. So I think probably 128 is going to be the sweet spots for us. This thing should now look a whole bunch better, and I think it does. I think that makes more sense, that the sand is going up more slowly, making this thing more visible and making it look a little bit more realistic. Is it realistic? It's not. You know what I mean? As if it was real. Not really going to have a giant mechanical sand spider. Jeez. Anyway, moving on, it's time to consider what we're going to be doing with our big old factory, and that's going to involve tearing out a whole bunch of the farms inside to replace them with something else. But unfortunately, the something else is going to have to wait for another day, so make sure you're subscribed if you want to find out what's going to be happening in here. But before I do anything at all, right now, I need to make some ender chests. And I can craft a maximum of 9 at the moment with the number of ender pearls I've got, so let's have all of those. And let's get these dyed and put in place for where they need to go. The first 2 of these are going to be for carrying the sand that thing generates so that we can then access that sand from elsewhere. And the color code for that is black, yellow, orange according to the icon at the top. So let's go and grab a few dyes. Pop a couple of these down, black, yellow, orange, and now when I open these, yes, they're both full of sand. We're going to take this up inside of our sand spider and into the storage system at the top, if I can squeeze up here, and we're going to put that directly below where we're actually turning our gravel into sand. That'll start filling up as we start using it for other things. Now, because we're going to be having a vehicle going from there to pick up sand and take it to here, it makes sense to actually have that ender chest in here where all of the sand is going to be stored so that it can then pick it up from that and then move it over to here, which seems a bit silly. It seems completely pointless to have wireless storage between the sand spider and that, and then bring it over with a vehicle to this, when we could literally just put the other ender chest in here and have it in here already. But it's all about making this place feel alive and actually giving some use to the things that we're creating. So for now, I'm just going to pop this ender chest down here, and we're not going to worry about that until a little bit later on when we've made that vehicle. But before I get carried away and start making these vehicles, I should probably look at tearing out some of the things from inside of here and figuring out where they're actually going to go. And so I've designated each one of these buildings a function. This one that I'm standing in front of is going to be our sand inn, where it comes from our sand pile behind the sand spider. This one here is going to be for our iron farm, which is going to help produce the iron for the windows, because we're going to be getting rid of our train carriage because it just doesn't fit the theme. Over here, we're going to have our smeltery in here and our washing machine and haunter in here. And then over here, we're going to actually be crafting our windows from that iron and the glass that we get from our smeltery in here. And finally, over here, we're going to be having our stained glass machine, which is going to dye wash the glass into all of the different colors, which does mean we don't actually have any buildings designated for the presses, which turn bricks into brick blocks and the sand into sandstone. But we'll figure that out later. First of all, before I do anything at all, I need to start tearing down what we've already got so we can start building it up in other places. Look at that, it's so bare in here now, and it's so bare downstairs as well. We've got so much room for other things. And yes, I haven't actually gone round and rebuilt any of the farms yet, because I thought it might be a good idea to do that as we build each vehicle, so that we know exactly where the input and output ports need to be in order to get the materials in and out of the factories. So that means it must be time to start designing our first vehicle, the vehicle that's going to be collecting the sand from there and depositing it over here. And in order to do that, we need to go back a couple of series to my first ever Create world. And more specifically, this part of the world, where we had a whole bunch of things going on in this little snowy alpine village. We had this little tractor that actually had a harvester on the back that goes down and actually harvests my fields in order to generate all of my food. We had a ski lift monorail gondola thing that brings wood back and forth from my wood farm the other side of this big old mountain. We even had a train line and even a little village with a little van in it that ran around getting all of the items from all of these different factories in order to bring them to my storage system. And it all worked rather well, but none of these things scream picking up sand from the desert. And that's because the vehicles we need to look at are over at these factories, which was doing a very similar thing, and these vehicles were run by monkeys. We had a forklift truck over here that took items around between the factories, but more appropriately than that, we actually had this dumper truck, which I absolutely love because it actually pivots and turns as it goes around corners. And this thing, as you can see, was literally taking sand from one place to another. It's a wonderful little machine, but it doesn't scream mechanical. Oh, there's another fork truck as well. I forgot I had two of these things as well as the dumper truck. Anyway, yes, as much as I love this, it's not going to fit in with our Command and Conquer big mechanical evil machine theme. It's also very small, and I want the machines that we make in our new world to be even bigger. And in terms of the design, well, I've had a couple of comments about that as well. And in order to understand those comments, we need to go back 21 years to the original Command & Conquer.
Welcome back, Commander.
Kill that man there. Everybody run and get this man. And there's some more men. Get those men. And there's another man. Quick! Oh, there's many men. Quick, kill them all. Kill the villager. We don't like those. We are not, of course. We're the bad guys. Destroy these houses. We don't want people having houses in this world. And kill this villager. Don't want him living, or you. There should be no entertainment facilities left in this little village. And this one here. And this man here. This lady. Get her. We don't want her surviving. Come here, lady. Ah, we've completed the mission. Perfect. And we'll just hop into this mission here.
If you fail, you die.
Here we go. Right, okay, so we've got our MCV. We're just going to deploy that here for now because I want to jump straight into being able to see the thing that I need you to see. Let's just move these guys out. Let's place our power station down here, get ourselves a refinery, and then finally we'll be able to see the thing that we need to be able to see. And my refinery is ready. Let's throw that down here. And now we're going to get this, the vehicle that we need, the harvester. This is exactly what we need to be building. A vehicle that slides around without its wheels moving while it goes around collecting things and then bringing it back to our harvester station over here. Anyway, that's the harvester from this game, but what if we hop out of this game and we hop into another one from just 20 years ago? This, of course, is Command Conquer Red Alert, the sequel to the original Command Conquer, and if we start a new game on this one, so I guess the Allies this time, why not? There's an upscaled man. Skip, and here we go. Let's put this into wow, look at the modernness of these vehicles. Right, let's hop over here. Oh, and immediately, we don't even have to play more than one level of this. We can see the harvesters in this game are substantially different from the original game. They look more like an actual working truck with a big flippy thing on the front of it to put the things into the back, and then that tips up and goes into there, and then it goes back out again doing all of the things that it needs to do. So I guess the question now is, do we build the harvester from the original Command & Conquer or the one that looks like the tipper truck from Command & Conquer Red Alert? And the other question I'm now asking myself is, which one of these buildings looks most like the harvester station? And I have to say that it's this one. So perhaps our harvester should come out of here and go and get the stuff and then bring it back here, and then the items get taken from here to the other places. Which means that we then have an extra building to do all of that pressing work that I said we didn't have before, which means everything will work out perfectly. Wonderful. Excellent. We've got a plan. Let's get designing our very first vehicle. Well, what do you think? Of course, I am on a creative copy of the world so that I could build this freehand and then schematic it into the real world later on. And the reason I do that is it just makes it a whole bunch easier to put my creativity to the test and pick out whatever blocks I need to do this. And I really like what I've achieved here. I love this little vehicle. Yes, it doesn't look identical to either of the Command & Conquer harvesters, and that's because, like everything else I've done over here, I just want to be inspired by that. And I think I've got a good mix of both of them. We've got the sort of beetly look at the front as the front sort of comes round onto the main body, and then for the back I've got this sort of opened area here where I would imagine the sand is flipped into the back where it's stored inside of that vault in there. I've also imagined we've got a back door here that's on a hinge that can open and close, and of course we've added some lights on this, some big old wheels, and the cab, and we've even got a little turret at the front because I really didn't know what to do with that space there. The only thing I don't like about this particularly is the actual harvesting part itself, and that's because it's so big and bulky, it doesn't really work. And of course it's not going to work because once this thing is a train, this will no longer function, because that will only function if this thing is blocks and I can add power to it, which I can't. But just to demonstrate how it works, if I pop my head inside of here and spin this lever there, it's not a lever, it's a valve, that activates a bit of chain drive, which activates these mechanical bearings, which spins the whole thing back, and as you can see, it doesn't quite reach the back, and when it's forward it already sticks out way too far, but it does sort of tuck away relatively nicely as this thing is folded up. So it kind of works, but I think I prefer it without it, to be honest with you. But as you can see, yeah, it's already sticking out quite a long way. Looks a little bit odd when it's down, And of course, it would have to stick out even further if I actually wanted it to come back far enough to deposit any sand in there. But either way, with or without it, I absolutely love this thing, so it's time for me to glue it together in this world, make sure it actually works, and then we can get it actually schematic into our real world and see if we can get this connected to do the things we want it to do. That does mean, unfortunately, that I am going to be dismantling this little front section here, and you guys will have to let me know in the comments if you think that's something I should have kept or not, because I can always put it back on again. It's only a few blocks, mate. So back on the server, before I actually build this in the world, let's see if it fits inside of our port here where it's going to be coming to offload. And I'm pretty sure it won't, which means we're probably going to have to do a little bit of work on this to raise it up a bit. I think it might fit widthways, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to fit height-wise. So yeah, if we pop that there like that, it definitely fits widthways. But if I actually bring this up so that its wheels are on the floor, 100% going to end up in the roof. So yeah, I just need to raise this up by a couple of blocks and then that should fit in there quite nicely. And then we just need to build a ramp down here that it can actually go down on. And let's go see what materials we need. Not all that many, but a whole bunch of things I don't have. Well, that didn't take too long at all. I've got everything I need except for these yellow paper soul lanterns, which I never used. It's a little bit of a bug with the wall hanging lanterns from the supplementaries mod, but that doesn't matter because we're ready to go, so let's get this thing blasted into existence. And this time I actually remembered to put glue inside, so it all should go perfectly. And there it is! Look at it in all of its glory. It is now in the world, 100% complete. All I've got to do is turn this into a train, which means I've got to now spend a whole bunch of time underneath the floor down here, creating track and places for this thing to go. And that also means I need to get rid of this vault where I've been storing all of the stuff from my tunnel bore so that I can actually create an exit point from this yard for this thing to come out of. Oh geez, always making work for myself. In order to lay all of the track underneath the ground over at our mega base, I need to come back here, our starter area, because I need to make a different type of track. I've already got an absolute ton of track in my backpack, over 2,000 of it, but that track is no good. I need to make narrow gauge track. And that means I need to come back to my upside down track making machine and make a few adjustments. I just need to saw some slabs and then deploy some iron nuggets on there, give them a press, and that will give me the narrow andesite train track. And now we're going. We are now creating our narrow gauge track, and I'll have plenty of that in no time. And so back at my base, what I need to do is figure out exactly where I'm going to be laying down this track in order to get this vehicle where I want it to go. And the reason we're using narrow gauge track is basically because it's much better at going around tight corners than the normal track. We can do tight corners all the way like that. Whereas with the normal track, if I pop a bit of that down here, the tightest corner I can do is like that, which isn't much bigger, but the narrow gauge is going to be better for us. So first things first, rather than being down there, I actually need to get underneath this vehicle and figure out where we're going to be going down underneath it. And I'm actually going to have this connected, oh geez, on both axles. I was going to have it connected on both axles, but that's where I put my portable storage interface, which means I do need to move that slightly. So let's just shift that, pop the axle in fully like that, and then we can put the portable storage interface perhaps in this block here instead. Let's just get rid of this sloped slab, pop that there, spin it around so we can access it from below, and I think that'll work absolutely fine. Now we know where those are going, let's just hop downstairs and pop down our first bit of track. And the first thing I need to do is extend our glass rods down to below the surface. So let's pop another one of those on there like that. That gives me the place where the bogies need to go. So that means I know the station has to go one block in front of that. Let's pop the station down, go to create new train, throw down a bogie there, throw down another one there. But I actually want these as invisible bogies. And even though they're already going to be invisible because they're down here under the ground, it just means we've got less animation going on with the wheels. So if I hold Alt, I can go to invisible, click tick, and then when I pop that down, we don't have any moving parts on these, reducing the amount of lag that these things are going to create in my world. Then I just need to actually connect those with the glue to the bogies, like that, and now I should be able to turn this thing into a train. And for now, I'm going to call that sand harvester. So if I pop myself back up and get myself inside of the sand harvester, I should now be able to drive it backwards and forwards. And it is all glued together properly and the wheels slide perfectly. Yes, that works absolutely wonderfully. Now, I can't exactly take this thing out of the yard without moving this thing first, so I'm now going to have to find a place for all of the items that are inside of there. And for now, because I'm feeling particularly lazy and I want to crack on with what we're doing, I'm just going to throw another vault down over here, make that as big as I can, smash all of these bits to bits. And now I need to see if I've got enough item drains to get these all the way over from one to the other. I do, so I can pop a funnel going into there and one going out of there, and we can transfer all of the items from there into there. And once that's done, I can remove that vault, open up that, and then we can figure out where the track's going to be going over to there, which will be a little bit of a problem because I don't actually have that area underground extended to over there. If we look underneath the ground at the moment, this line falls in line with our wall, so I now need to dig out the area across there over to there in order to lay that track down. And I'm just going to grab my shovel and just start digging randomly and aimlessly, which means the desert is going to disappear above me, but we can pop that back in once we know exactly where we're going to be going. But I do need to bear in mind how wide this is, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blocks wide. And that means I need to make sure that our track is the 5th block from the center on here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the line where our track needs to be, and then it's going to be hugging the wall, so I actually want to do it 1 block over. But if I do it at this line here, that means we've only got 4 blocks the other side of this line before we start hitting the legs. 1, 2, 3, 4. We get away with it. That's perfect. Okay, so that is our line. Now I just need to do some digging. We now have a line going from where we need to go all the way to our sand pile, and the items have been moved from one vault to the other, so let's get rid of all of this. And we also need to smash a hole in the fence where we're going to be bringing our vehicle out. So first things first, I need to add in the first corner, and I'm actually going to start that from the other end so that we know how wide the corner can be, and it can, yes, come all the way to the end there. So I'm going to pop that down there, connect that to there. We can then bring this bit all the way down to over here. Let's go round about there and create the next corner, which I'm going to do exactly the same thing, just like that. Again, it goes through the blocks, and now I'm just going to take that all the way to the end here, but I'm not 100% sure that's exactly where we want it to be. So what we need to do now is drive it round there and see how it looks driving round those corners. Is it going to clip on our gate? Do we need to move that? Do we need it to go further out? And does it need to be adjusted over at the sand pile? Let's find out. Hopping into the driver's seat, activating the controls, and going into third person, we can see this thing is just about going to get through the gate. We might have to make that a bit wider, but I've got a feeling, oh geez, that's going to be scrape it. It didn't scrape on the gate on that side. No, I think we got away with that, but I am going to make that slightly wider anyway. That can then come down the side here. As you can see, we've got room on that side of the gate, and before we don't quite clip into the legs, and then we get over to here, over to the sand pile, and we're probably going to go right into the sand pile when we get there, which isn't ideal. I'll actually like it to reverse up to it so it can look like it's, well, reversing into the sand. And that's going to require a little bit of jiggery pokery. So let's just move this thing back a little bit over here, hop myself out, and what I actually need to do is have this corner go that way first so we can drive in this direction and then reverse up to the sand pile, and I'd like it to reverse more up to the middle of it. And now I've got a little bit of track that goes round the corner that way. Now what I need to do is get this little track and then bring it over in this direction, and then when it comes to here, we go around here, hopefully not quite falling into the water there, and then we've got a little bit of a wiggly turn there to get us over there, but this wiggly turn is a little bit too wiggly. So I'm going to break this bit of the track here, come down to the closest point we can get to on our corner, and then if I go and bring that over here and bring it to there and I hold down the run button, that little wiggly corner is going to be a bit smoother. So now when we get in our vehicle, we can hold down left to drive around that corner. I don't think we're going to go far enough to... Oh, we are just about. Now I need to hold back and right in order to go the right way round, and now we can reverse up to the sand pile. Yes, we're going to have to do a little bit of work around that pond, but we can reverse right up to it like that. And then when we want to go home, we can just follow this down all the way back to our yard and then back to where we started. However, now we're facing the wrong way again. We don't want to drive up this forwards, we want to drive up this backwards. So we now need a reverse point in the yard to turn this thing around. So what we need to do is then drive left over to there and then reverse up to that, which might not give us enough room if we're having a big old slope here. So I've got some figuring out to do. And figuring out I did, starting by digging out some more sand along the side of our track so I had spaces to put torches and things and adjust the track in order to get it exactly where I wanted it to go. With the adjusted track now in place, I placed torches on the inside and then put a layer of sandstone 1 block down from the top layer of the sand as a solid surface for us to then put the sand back on again later. Next, I hopped down under the tarmac to throw in the turning point for the vehicle to be able to turn around within the yard, and then I focused on the slope that would take it up to the factory. I worked out the angle of the slope, followed by then placing down a whole bunch of copycat slope blocks and then texturing those blocks with the tarmac texture from underneath blended in into the beginning of the factory port. And with that done, I was then able to adjust the height of the factory port to make it big enough to actually reverse the vehicle into. And with all of that done, I was then able to test the vehicle on its entire route, making sure it went exactly where I wanted it to go and lined up with all of the things I wanted it to line up with, which all worked out rather well. Except for one thing which didn't go quite so well, and that is the fact that by adding this slope up here with the track being a few blocks below it means that my workshop underneath this platform has now been taken over by a railroad. It also has to have a station in it, and we also need a point under here to actually unload the sand from the vehicle above it and give it somewhere to go. And it also means we've got a big hole in my wall now that now gives us access to everything over here. Speaking of track and stations, I have put stations in at all of the points that I want the harvester to go to, and I've labeled them all as well, which means we can actually now get this thing fully automated in terms of going back and forth to where we want it to go. All we need is a little man, which means back at my starter base once again we need to make a little hat. And the way we do that is to saw some wool, then poke it with a precision mechanism, and then poke it with some string. And I'm all out of precision mechanisms, so I'm going to have to do that first, which means going back to that track machine that we made earlier and adjusting it yet again to produce the things I need to produce now. So I've adjusted this thing so it's now got 3 deployers, no saw, and now if I put a gold sheet in there, that's going to partially go round this system, and I've got to take it out of there and then manually put... Oh no, I put the wrong thing in. Oh jeez. Oh well, now we're going to make 6 of them. That's absolutely fine. I've just got to repeat this a couple of times. Hopefully we won't get any failures at all. And wow, a 50% failure rate. Oh jeez. I guess I make some more. Really? I got 2 more fails. Oh well, we've got 7 precision mechanisms now, but now I've got to adjust this thing again. Stop placing stuff. And all I've got to do to adjust it is just shorten the belt, throw that saw back in, give this a precision mechanism, this a bit of string, and now hopefully if I throw a little bit of wool in there, we should end up with the conductor's cap. Spin that round. There we go. That was fast. And before I go away again, I'm going to make a few more of these just so that we've got plenty for more drivers. And there we go. We've now got 7 hats. And so back over at our brand new vehicle, all I need to do is throw a block of andesite case in there, stick a hat on it, create a man from nothing, and then go and lead him to this seat here. Now we have a man in our vehicle. And now I've just got to make a schedule. So first of all, I want him to go to Harvester Reverse. That's that station over here. That means he's going to drive forward to this, and then I want him to reverse back over to the collection point, which means sending him to that station. Then we want him to come out of there, go forward into here, and then go to this turning point here, which I believe is Harvester Forward. So back in here, we're going to add another station, going to Harvester Forward, and then of course we want him to reverse up the slope into the port. So we'll add 1 more station, which is Harvester Drop Off, and the MB at the beginning of this just stands for Mega Base, just so that when we've got other stations around here, I don't get confused. But of course I don't want him to wait 5 seconds at each one. We don't want him to wait any time at all when he's going to the reversing point, so let's just set those to 0. At the collection point, we're obviously going to wait for him to collect something, but we've not got that in place yet, so we'll just have him wait there for, let's say, 10 seconds. Then when we get to this turning round point, we don't want him to wait there at all, and then when he gets to the drop off again, I'm just going to have him wait for 10 seconds to unload, even though he's not going to unload anything because he won't have collected anything. All I want to do is test it, make sure it works. So let's hop up in here, give this man a schedule, and now I need to get out and watch this thing go. So I haven't... Where are you going? Oh, I've done this wrong, haven't I? Okay, that must be reverse then, and that one must be forward. So yeah, we're just going to see this end. Oh, jeez. Now you've gone... Oh, jeez. I haven't... Oh, no. Now you're going to go there and... Oh, well, I'll just fix it. I'll be back in a minute. So switching the stations around to go forward, collect, reverse, drop off. Hopefully this will work. Let's give him that back and watch this again. Hopefully he's going to not go over there this time. He's not. What? What did I call this station? But you... Now it... Oh, he's still finishing off from the last time. No, that's okay. That's okay. And here he goes. He should completely ignore that bit this time. He should make his way around this bit along here, down to there, which it looks like he's going to do. Come on, man, don't get it wrong this time. There he goes, into that bit. Now he's going to reverse back up to the sand pile where he's not going to collect anything at all because he doesn't have anything to collect yet because I haven't done that bit yet. And then after waiting there for 10 seconds, he's going to then go back this way. There we go, he's turning. He's going the right way so far. Now all he's got to do is come back round here and get into there, and that should be the entire loop done. He's doing it. He is doing it. And there we go. Hurrah! It worked! Excellent. So now all I've got to do is throw some sand in him over there and extract the sand over here, and that is this vehicle completely done. I've just got a whole bunch more as well as all those farms to build. Oh, jeez. And place all of the sand back here and add in some track-looking things to make it look like he's been going, oh, jeez, I've got so much to do. I'm going to be a few minutes.
New construction options. Building. Construction complete. Building. Construction complete. Building.
I am a mechanical man. I am a mechanical
Construction
man.
complete. Building. Construction complete. Building. Mission accomplished.
So progress is being made. All of the farms are in, but with progress comes problems. But before we get to the problems, let's have a look at what I've done. I have built an iron farm, a much better iron farm than that train carriage over there. This iron farm has a whole bunch of drills surrounding this cobblestone, allowing it to mine the cobblestone a whole bunch faster, which then drops down into these barrels here, which then gets ejected 64 at a time through the crushing wheels to turn it into gravel. It then comes up here into that vault and gets dropped down onto here so we can wash it as fast as we can. It works very well. However, there is absolutely no way to get the iron out of there and where we want it, but that's a problem for later on. The next factory I built was my smelting, haunting and washing machines, which is this one over here, and this was a headache. The system itself was easy enough to build, that wasn't a problem, and I've even put an import station here, which is likely to change, and the area where we're going to export the items here, which is also likely to change. The issue was some of the items we need to send out and process as well, and that's easy to do when you're just using storage drawers, but because we're actually sending these items out onto vehicles to then go somewhere else, that becomes a big old headache. So in order to try and achieve what I need to achieve, I've added these threshold switches onto the things that we need to split up and get equal amounts of, and that controls how much is allowed through the chutes at the front to actually drop down. And then once they're full, we actually have a system downstairs which takes all of the items that we're producing from here, sends them along these belts here and up into that vault at the end where our vehicle can pick it up. And as you can see, there's a redstone link here saying you're only allowed to eject those items if we've got enough of each one, which should work a bit. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than just letting all of my soul sand come out and then having them left to make the scoria and the scorchia. The next building I did was our press building, which is in this building here, and all this has to do is turn sand into sandstone, sandstone into cut sandstone, and then bricks into brick blocks, which is nice and easy. We just need 3 presses, but again, because we're sending out sandstone and cut sandstone, I needed to add another system on here to make sure that it only sends out the sandstone if we've got enough cut sandstone, which is what these threshold switches are for. And if we hop downstairs here, you can see I've got a very similar thing going on here, allowing those items out only if we've got enough of each one. They then come up through here through this fan, and they go into the little vault that there was at the front of the building just here, where we can then pick the items up from. Again, this little thing here is subject to change, because I'm not sure how we're going to actually connect these things to our vehicles yet. And there is another one round the back here where we're actually going to be bringing the items in. The next factory I worked on was, of course, turning glass into stained glass, which is much easier, even though it's a much more substantial build. All we needed was 16 fan washers, each one allowing glass box to go into it on 2 layers, and then they can only come out if they've actually been coloured by the fact that we're going directly into storage drawers. All of the stained glass can then come out into this vault, and all of the raw glass can go into this vault. So that one wasn't a headache at all. I skipped this building because that's my copper building and went straight on to the window making factory, which were built inside of this scorpion looking building here, and this has 3 mechanical saws which turn iron ingots into industrial iron. That industrial iron and any glass we bring here is then converted into the industrial iron windows using this autocrafter and this autocrafter, and then that all gets sent out into this vault, which we'll pick up from. This is the input vault, and this time, instead of having the drains on the side and the portable storage interface is visible, I've actually added it under the ground, thinking that we might actually want to get items in and out of our vehicles from below. So we've got the portable storage interfaces here, which will pop up through the ground, and the finished items are coming down here going into the output one, and the input one items are going round here and up into that storage container at the top. And that all should work, providing that we set up the rail network underneath here to actually get the vehicles into the right place and build the vehicles in a way which they can actually drop off and collect the right items from the right place at the right times, which is going to be a bit of a headache, particularly for this one. This is another one of those problems, because we actually want to keep some of these industrial iron windows, but we also want to send a whole bunch of them over to our washing area in order to make the weathered windows. So we're going to have a vehicle that brings some of the windows over to here to be processed into the weathered variety, and another vehicle, or even perhaps the same vehicle, coming over here where we're going to be storing everything. So once everything's finished, all of the finished materials will get brought to this building here, but all of the raw materials that need to go to all of the different ones, oh geez, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. But of course, I can't collect or drop off anything with vehicles if I don't have any vehicles. So I think it's about time I designed some little vehicles to run around this place. So of course that brings me back to the creative copy of this world, where I'm going to be building one of these vehicles alongside this one so I can judge the scale and make sure that I get the feel of it just right.
Unit ready.
And here it is. Not quite as small as I was thinking it was going to be, but I really like it. This little vehicle is basically a pickup truck. It's got a flatbed at the back. Underneath this, there is a big old vault for carrying lots of things inside it, and it's got a portable storage interface at the back here, as well as one hiding underneath, so that we can access items from below or from the back, making this thing a little bit more versatile. And of course, the design is in keeping with our copper and industrial iron. We've got headlights at the front. The wheels do stick in the ground a little bit. So yeah, I think this is great. It's exactly what we need. So of course, I need to now get this on the real world. But of course I don't just need one of them, I need a whole bunch. Which is why I've now made 3 of them. Back on the real world, I've used the Schematic Cannon to blast 3 of these into existence, and I do have enough materials to make another 3 should we need them. But before I get carried away building too many of these, I actually need to get drivers for them, plan out the rail network underground, and get them doing jobs that we need them to do, which means adjusting all of these farms so they've got inputs and outputs in order to meet. Oh my goodness, I've got so much to do, and this video's already really long. I'll just be a few minutes. Jeez. Well, I'd rather not admit how long it's taken me to get just one vehicle working. But I now have just one vehicle working, and this vehicle seems to work pretty well. It has a rather complex job, which means it has to fetch both iron from the iron farm, glass from the smeltery, and deliver those to the window making factory as well as the stained glass factory. And in order to achieve that, I've had to do some rather complicated things. Rather than using mailboxes and frog ports and all of that sort of thing, and factory gauges and whatnot, which could have simplified this in some ways, that would have massively overcomplicated in other ways. Oh geez, you're going very fast, I forgot to limit his speed. That would have overcomplicated it in other ways. So, I've chosen to stick to just the good old stations, schedules, and portable storage interfaces. And I'm going to show you how this thing works. When it pulls up to this smeltery, we don't want it getting all of the items out of there, we only want it to get glass. And there's a couple of ways I could have made it do that. Instead of using its vault that's on board, I could have used a toolbox. And by using the toolbox, I can set which items can actually fit inside there, preventing it from taking other things. But I didn't choose to do that, because that has a whole bunch of complications on its own. Instead, what I did was set up a couple of stations here, and depending on which station it stops at will depend on what items it gets. For example, if it stops at this station here, it will set off this redstone link, which allows just glass to be sent through from our storage system into this port here, which will send it up. If it went to the other station, it would unlock this funnel, allowing all of the different types of items to go through, including glass, which will come in useful when I start working on my next vehicle. And I've got something very similar happening here over at the iron farm to get the iron from the iron farm, and again something very similar going on over at the window making machine, where we're using two different portable storage interfaces underground. Depending on how far the vehicle goes back will depend on whether it's dropping things off or picking things. Oh my goodness me, how did you get down here? Get out of it. So that's how we're dealing with that. And as of course you can see down here, I've got a whole bunch of rail going on, and I've had to throw in a whole bunch of signals to stop these things from crashing into each other and getting all sorts of confused under here. That involves making a one-way system to make sure that we don't have two vehicles trying to go in opposite directions on the same bit of track, and of course we don't want them crashing into the harvester as it's coming backwards and forwards over here. And that all works pretty well. So let's see if we can see this thing in action. It's just been to the iron farm to pick up some iron. Now it's going over to the window making facility, where it's going to reverse up and drop off that iron that it's just picked up. And once it's done that, it's going to head off over to the glass making facility or the smeltery in order to pick up some glass to take it to the stained glass factory. Again, it's going to go just past it so that it can then reverse up and get into position. And this is going to wait until it's got enough glass. However, if there isn't enough glass to load it up, because of course we've got no sand in here at the minute to actually make glass, this thing will drive off after 30 seconds in order to not hog the space that it's taking up so other vehicles can get in. Once it's done that, it's going to head over to our stained glass facility, drop whatever glass it's got off there, again reversing into it, and then once it's finished there, it's going to head back off to get some more glass and then iron to take it to the window making facility. And that one works really well. But how well is it going to work when we've got another two of these things running about? I've currently got one parked over there out the way and one parked over there out the way. And the next place I need to send them to actually go to is going to be in here, where our harvester is facing the wrong way round, going in here. Why are you facing the wrong way round, harvester? Speaking of the harvester, I've adjusted its track slightly, and I've also added all of this sort of wet, damp looking sand to indicate where it travels along here, and I've also added in the system underneath here that takes the sand out of that ender chest and puts it onto the harvester. And of course at the other end, why are you going backwards, you moron? Anyway, of course at the other end we have a system in place now to take the sand out of the harvester and take it into a very, very small vault inside of here. So I'm going to have to change up a whole bunch of this area down here so that I can actually sort out putting the sand into other vehicles and also taking other items out of the other vehicles, because I want this to be the area where all of the vehicles come and bring over the finished materials. Well, not too long later, and we now have another vehicle doing the rounds. This one is doing a bunch of different things. It picks up the sand from over here, then it will drive off to the window making factory in order to pick up some industrial iron windows. Once it's done that, it will then make its way all the way round to our press factory, where it will pick up just sandstone from this factory And then once it's finished there, it will then take all of those items to the smeltery to be smelted. And you can see it's just done around, so we've got a whole bunch of sand in here, which means I only have one vehicle left to do. But it's getting very messy down here. If I hop underground and have a look down here, you can see we've got a whole bunch of signals going on. We've got brass signals, we've got normal signals, we've got stations all over the place. This thing is becoming a nightmare. Well, a little bit more time has passed and we now have all three of my vehicles whizzing around this area doing lots of things. However, I am coming across a whole bunch of different scenarios where they end up in traffic jams and refuse to go from one place to another. And even though I'm absolutely trying my best to get all of the signaling correct, sometimes things just happen that you don't expect. A little bit like this here. That wants to reverse into there and that wants to come out. In order to do that, though, it needs to cross into the green section so it can do that, but this one also wants to go into the green section, and because I've got these on the brass types, that means it can't go, because that, if you switch these to brass, it means it can only go into the next section if the following section is traversable as well, which it's not. So now we've got a situation where all three of them are in here. That wants to go that way, this one wants to come round and reverse in, and that one wants to. They all want to go here. And this is a nightmare. I've just had exactly the same thing going on the smeltery, and, well, let's just put it this way. I actually need to add a fourth vehicle, because there's something I completely forgot to add into all of this. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's just see if I can fix this problem. Oh, jeez. Stupid vehicles! Well, it's taken me an entire day to get this right, but we just have the three vehicles now and they do absolutely everything, and they seem to be somewhat synchronized and not crashing into each other and doing all the things that they need to do, which is wonderful. I have had to make some significant changes to absolutely everything in order to make them not crash into each other and have a whole bunch of problems, and one of those changes is the fact that I've had to get rid of the steps from this area here, so that the vehicles have a better place to be able to turn around and come back into this building without all getting stuck together. Another thing I've had to do is actually bring this corner out in order to allow the vehicles to come round this way round the buildings, and the reason I've had to do that is to create a full loop underground to stop things going backwards and forwards on the same line. So if we hop ourselves underground and look at all of this stuff, you can see there's a lot less track going on, and we've just got one single loop going around the entire underground here. We have got some rather interesting looking junctions where things could get confused, but I've got my signals sorted out now to prevent that. And because everything can only go in one direction on each piece of track, they can't block each other or get in each other's way. There are a couple of points where things can go backwards and forwards, such as one of the vehicles needs to come up this way in order to then reverse back around this bit to get to our sand machine. And similarly over here, one of them needs to come around this loop here, go forwards along here, and then reverse up to our press system. But because of the signaling and because I've actually taken the time to figure them out properly and put them in the right places, that means nothing actually gets confused, nothing gets in each other's way, and it all works perfectly. So let's just take a minute to sit back, relax, and watch this thing going with a few shaders and some lovely music. And while this music's playing, I should probably mention the fact that this area is by no means finished. I've still got to build a big old workshop in the basements I made a few videos ago, a huge storage system in the big middle factory, as well as a whole bunch of other things as well. So don't forget to subscribe if you want to see the progress happening on all of those things. Anyway, look at the vehicles. Look at them doing the things that they need to do. Isn't it glorious? It's taken so long, but it is so worth it bringing this entire area to life. Thanks for watching, peeps.